Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Plat, or should I say, the Unicorn Overlord. Huzzah! If you're watching this, that means the game is out and you guys are having a wonderful time playing. Now, I would love to be able to say the same, but the day the game releases on Friday, I'm working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Or 10 a.m. I'll double check. I think it's 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. So I'm not going to have a chance to stream or even play the game, but tomorrow I will be there. We'll be streaming all day tomorrow. So get ready. I'll have a video in the morning, and then after that's been live for a couple hours, then we will absolutely jump into it. But today we're talking about the Lord, the Unicorn Overlord. I figure what better character to talk about on release day than kind of give you an overview of the main good boy himself. But really quick, before we jump into it, I want to thank my members and my supporters. Up to 13 now, which is actually kind of crazy. That's more than I thought I would get in the first couple weeks. So thank you very much. If you want to continue supporting the Plat, or if you want to become a Plat supporter and help me make more whatever's videos and stuff, I'm going to make the videos regardless. But if you want to help shore up some of my free time, then you know what to do. Anyway, let us jump into it. I was supposed to use the voice changer for this episode. I was going to do something like, if you're watching this, it means the game is out. Yeah. But I figured, but I didn't think that joke would land, so I decided to skip it, and you guys will never hear that take. Anyway, let's talk about the Lord. My guy's name is Elaine. I don't know what you're going to name yours. Just kidding. It's always Elaine. So the Lord, I think, if you look at this right here, if you look at growth types and you look at all these letters, you can see that they're not good at anything. However, what if I was to tell you they're actually fucking great at pretty much everything? Like, I don't want you to look at this screen and think, oh, look at B, C, B, this is fine. That's a lot of B's. Like, even like all these characters, they have E's and F's and D's. Yeah, they have an S. Yeah, they have an S, but then they have F and C and D. This character is all B, C, B, C, B, 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 C, A, B. So they may not be like the literal best in any one category, but they kind of are actually. But I mean, they still are just fucking badass. Sorry, in case you want to see them, I was just pretending to be the Unicorn Overlord for this video. There we go. They're just very good. So as far as the stats go, one, you could respec if you go to the black market. I already did a video on that. You could check that out. But basically, there is a mirror for sale at the black market, so I'll let you respec these growth types. You can do it for any character, but it's probably most likely, best spent on your Lord to kind of tilt them into the direction you want to take your personal Lord character. But let's jump into their details. So they are an infantry. 6 stamina, 100 mobility, literally middle of the line. 6 stamina is high, but that's what most infantry have. 100 mobility is like, you know, an IQ of 100. It's what's average. They do have a really good leader effect. Extra valor points in defeating enemy units, that's big. I mean, I don't think there's another unit that can get this. Valor points are insanely overpowered. I don't know about overpowered, but they're insanely powerful. So even getting 1 or 2 more over a fight is pretty big. Now, you do have the hollowed corn ash and stuff, but like hypothetically, if you're not using those because they seem a little like an insanely powerful item and most of the time they're not needed, then this is a great way to get additional valor points. Other than that, nothing crazy here, but their skills, oh boy, their skills. I think they really come online at level 5. But let's just kind of go over it. Lean Edge, you get this at level 1. This is so good. I don't know why it's called Lean Edge, but attack a single enemy with 100 potency, 100% hit rate. So it's like a just pretty average damage dealing attack. Not great, but definitely not bad. But recover 25% HP if the attack hits. Then recover 25% HP if the target is defeated. So this is a potentially 50% heal. This is so good. That's a lot of healing. Now, it's not the highest damage. Like, this isn't about killing things necessarily, but it is a incredible tanking ability, which I think you're going to kind of see a theme of here going forward. Cavalry Slayer. This attack is, I think it's not very good, but it's not, I only think it's not very good because you're either going to be tanky, trying to be tanky with healing yourself, or if you're not trying to be tanky and heal yourself, then you kind of want to use this, but it still doesn't do that much damage, you know? It's like 100. It does remove an AP and a PP from, and it inflicts guard seal, so it does a lot to the cavalry, but it doesn't actually like deal bonus damage to them. It just makes them deal less damage. This is like mostly a debuff attack, right? So I mean, it's good. I'll use Cavalry Slayer against Cavalry over Lean Edge for sure, assuming that my HP isn't too low. But I think it's a little bit of a less cool attack than I was hoping. If it had a physical potency, if it had like plus 50 potency versus Cavalry, then I would be like kind of all in. I would really like this attack as like a tech, but overall, it doesn't seem insane, just pretty good. Noble Guard, pretty cool ability, and I think it's the only one that I've seen kind of quite like this. But block an enemy attack with a medium guard. You also get 20% defense. So you block, and then you get a defense buff. That's a pretty big deal. Defense buffs are a 20% defense is quite a bit, and you could use this multiple times. It's every time you get hit for every PP you have, obviously, but then you get your PP back if you have 50% HP or less. So if you get hit like 5 times and they bring you down to like 50% HP, like you're gonna get 20% defense, you get your block back, they're gonna hit you, you get more defense, so they deal less damage, and they do less damage, and they deal less damage. It's a little bit of a pie in the sky thing, but for the most part, like every time they hit you over the course of a fight, you're going to increase your defense, and you almost have guaranteed blocks the entire fight if your HP gets low enough. If your HP doesn't get below 50%, which is pretty low, it won't give you the PP back. But even then, it's still just like, this is good. Guaranteed blocks are strong. But even better, I think, is the Luminous Cover. Cover an ally with a medium guard. So it's worse than the Hoplite Guard, because I think this is 50% damage reduction, and the Hoplite is 75%. But this also grants the ally 20% defense. This is pretty awesome if you have like 1 PP and you use it to block an ally and they're going to get attacked more than once. Let's say they have a bunch of archers and they're doing double hits, right? And so the first time you could use your PP to guard against the double hit from the archer, but now you can't guard them anymore because you're out of PP, but that character still has 20% increased defense. So they're still in a way giving them a defensive boost. So it's really, really strong. But also jumping in front of characters to guard for them is like insanely powerful. It helps you reduce the amount of team damage on multi-hit attacks, because if they're doing like a whole column, and they're hitting you and the character behind you, you'll just jump back and block it. And so instead of dealing, you know, let's say they do 50 damage to each character, instead of dealing 50 damage to each character for a total of 100 damage, they're only going to deal 25, because you're going to jump back and you're going to block for 50% of that damage, and they're going to take 0. So now you're only taking 25 instead of 100 damage. So that'd be a 75% damage decrease in that kind of situation. But in the sense is like jumping in front of characters to block is especially good on multi-target attacks, but it's also just good to protect squishies. Very, very powerful ability. And the reason why this, in my opinion, is so much better than the Hoplite is the Hoplite has a big weakness of really, really low magic defense and also having like really bad damage. Now our damage isn't on paper better, but we just have like, it always, I think swords are better than spears for the most part, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not a direct fair comparison to probably compare this character to my Hoplite, if I'm being completely honest, because, well, my Hoplite's level 10. He's got 12 physical attack. Let's take a look at the Hoplite. You would think he's a big, strong guy, but he actually has a D physical attack scaling and an F magic defense, right? Like, and now the Hoplite will have more physical defense or whatever, but like this character actually deals damage while guarding and self-heals. It's just like a way better version of the Hoplite in like literally every single situation. The Hoplite doesn't even get a secondary attack, and their only attack is Impale, which is garbage because they have to be almost dead. And the Hoplite it's just so weird. The Hoplite's either at 100% HP because they take 1 point of damage from all physical attacks, or they're fucking dead because they used magic and you blocked 0 of it. So I think the Hoplite's kind of trash, although I do think there is a build for the Hoplite that's actually pretty good. We'll kind of talk about that in a future video, I think, but this is about the Lord. So this is why I think the Lord is so good, because they have a very powerful ability to block for anybody. They have a very powerful ability to heal themselves. They have some tech also, a little bit of tech built into their kit, which is okay, but it's really, they're like the best tanks that also deal a lot of damage. Also, swords are probably, so far, they seem like the most diverse weapon type. Like, there's just a sword for everything, it seems like. I mean, staffs. There's more staffs that do more interesting things, but for the most part, like, swords, as far as the martial classes go, is, like, very good. Also, the Valor skills are great. Doubling experience earned by a unit by 100%. This is going to be really good on challenge runs where you don't use auxiliary battles, and you maybe there's some sort of, like, maybe their Unicorn Overlord does some sort of Nuzlocke build where you can only recruit one character or whatever from each thing, and then if a character dies in battle, you're never allowed to use them again, kind of thing. Like, if you do challenge runs, this kind of thing is great. As far as like a normal run of the game, experience is infinite, so you never need to worry about this, but it could help you cheese out some stuff, I suppose. But Valorous Order, it's 3, which is so expensive. 3 Valor points, but you get guaranteed first strike, 20% reduced damage, 20% increased damage. That's huge. And because the wild charge has been nerfed from 2 to 3, this is a much more appealing thing. Before, you would pretty much always use wild charge the second you got 2 because it's just so strong. Now that it's 3, it is directly competing with this skill, and I think wild charge is still going to be better sometimes, but there's no doubt that if there's a fight that's really hard compared to your team, this actually gives you an advantage in that fight, where wild charge is mostly a gap closer, a bypass enemies, a deal a little bit of damage. It could kill like squishies, but for the most part, this will actually help you more in really, really tough boss fights. So let's take a look at the actual build that I recommend for this character. So as far as the weapon, there's just so many good weapons that you could use. It doesn't really matter. If you get an early game Kingsblade, right? This is the only reason I wouldn't use the Kingsblade on this character is because I have a more damage oriented character, and this is the highest physical attack weapon that I could find in the game. But other than that, once you find something stronger with physical attack, not 30, this is getting nerfed 10. So it's going from 30 to 20. So suddenly even the Heaven Sing sword is starting to look pretty good, but not yet. This will be one of the best weapons because they're nerfing the physical attack, but that's not nerfing the 5 guard rate, the 5 physical defense, the 5 magical defense, the 5 initiative, the 5 evasion, everything that a tank wants, and even HP, right? Which isn't as good as the Zenorian sword in terms of HP, but this makes you super tanky, and it makes you deal a bunch of damage, but they're nerfing that part, but it's still going to keep you just as tanky. So this will be probably one of the best swords, but even like, you know, a hollowed blade is okay. The Zenorian sword, I personally really like. 10 HP, 2 physical, 2 magical. One of the main things this job has, or this class has over all the other classes, is that it's a tank. It's a frontline tank that protects the backline, protects everybody, but it also has really good physical defense. Is pretty good. It's not like cream of the crop, but it's got good enough physical defense. And it's got really good magic defense. There's nothing with physical defense this high that also has magical defense this high that I've seen. On top of the fact that it can self-heal. On top of the fact that it's not considered armored, so the anti-armor tech doesn't even work against it, right? It's considered infantry. So, like, even like a hammer, right? Like a warrior doesn't deal any bonus damage to us. So that's huge. Templar sword is good, right? If you want to increase your guard rate as high as you can. There's just so many good swords. Even Poison Slash. If you're going up against things, if you have a very physically oriented team, and then you don't need, they have a bunch of armor, like just having a Viper Fang is good. So there's lots of good stuff here. I like the Zenorian sword for tanking, and so that's kind of what I'm using, but you can go more damage oriented for sure, or more healing oriented for sure. I actually think Azura Crest Shield is one of 2 options in the early game. Yes, it's very, very good. And there's also a cavalry one, which maybe you could use, but that's not as big of a deal to me. This is good because this is more if you need to defend your backline. However, if you're going up against enemies that you don't need to defend your backline that much, and they're mostly all going to funnel into the front line, I actually think you probably want to go with the Templar Shield. It's almost the same. You get 1 less PP, which sucks, but you do get 20% HP recovery. So this is going to make your lean edge and stuff heal you even more, which is awesome. Like, you know, it's just powerful. And other than that, like, of course, yes, you can get like even higher. Like there's a good amount of shields, but you could use the cavalry one if you're having a lot of issue with cavalry, but you've also got Cavalry Slayer built in. So you've already kind of got a little bit of that build there. I like having the extra PP on the character. You could always use the Ring of the Unicorn is okay. You know, same old, same old. You could use the gauntlets if you want. That's okay. You know, gives you just a higher chance to guard, but you're already using your PP to guard. And I like having double healing opportunities. You don't need things like the leaf brooch that much because you're already healing yourself with the attacks. There's just a lot of options you could do, but this is where I've been going for my tanky build, right? The Cerulean Pendant, the Azura Crest Shield, and a Zenorian Sword. These are all good. I like them a lot. Now, as far as the gambits go, this one is actually very interesting. Also, I want to thank my giveaway winner, who I keep forgetting the name of. And I don't forget the name of it, just like I read it. And then when I read it, I don't say it out loud. So when I go to say it out loud, I kind of forget how to say it. But I did get this from my chat. So thank you to that awesome user. And also another told me I switched these two around from another comment I got on YouTube. And that just seemed like a good idea. But basically, this is exactly what is going to happen. When your turn comes up, you have pretty high initiative. If you look at all these other characters, like you have one of the highest initiatives. She's level 14 and our initiative is almost 10 points higher. And she has a bonus 5 initiative from the Kingsblade. Yes, she has low initiative in general, but the point is this guy does have really good initiative. But you really don't want to start a fight with lean edging almost ever. You want, especially if you're at full HP, you just go in, you attack something. Lean Edge is not a damaging ability. It deals decent damage and it's okay, but this is mostly to heal you back up in a fight so you can keep going. So I think your first one should be, if your HP is under 75%, then you will target the lowest HP available target. So this means this skill will not activate unless your own HP is under 75%. So the very first thing that happens in a fight, it's going to check. If you're not missing at least 25% of your health, it's not even going to check the second condition. It's just going to move on to the Cavalry Slayer. So this is super important. I want to clarify, because this attack heals you 25% if the attack hits, and then it'll heal then if you kill something, it'll give you 50% healing instead of 25%, which is fantastic. But when a fight starts, if you don't have this kind of thing set up, you'll just attack and you're out of AP. And then because your initiative is so high, you get hit by 3 more things or something, you know, like all their turn gets to attack you. And then you end the fight at almost no HP, or you could just die, you know, because, but if you do this, he's going to go on standby the first turn. Why? Because he's going to look at this and it's going to say, all right, I can't do it. My HP is over 75%, on to the next. If there is Cavalry, you could have this set up or you could turn this one off. It depends on what you want. I like having this one here because I want his top priority to be to heal when he's low, because that's what his job is. His second job is to debuff Cavalry. And so if there's Cavalry present, you want to select this, and this will only target Cavalry. It's very important to choose Cavalry and not prioritize Cavalry. Prioritize Cavalry will mean that it will try to attack Cavalry, and if there is no Cavalry, it'll attack anything else. Where if you choose Cavalry, it means if there's no Cavalry, it's going to skip this condition and it won't attack anything else. It'll just bypass this. Then for your final one here, you have Lean Edge a second time, and you have this one set up to 0 AP. So this means this targets combatants with 0 AP. This is basically your AP dump at the end of the fight. That means at the end of the fight, if your other conditions don't trigger, this will just end up using the rest of your AP. Now, the time where this is, there is a very fringe, probably never going to happen scenario where this could be bad. If there's ever a situation where an enemy doesn't use their AP, then this will not really work as intended. Maybe such as you're freezing them, right? If you freeze an enemy and they don't use their AP, this won't see any targets. So there are some fringe scenarios where this isn't guaranteed to trigger, but you could easily adapt this in those fringe scenarios. If you're not doing teams that are going to freeze with a lane, then you don't need to worry about it at all. But this will basically mean if they get to the end of the fight, the enemy is all gone, you're just going to go in and lean edge 2 different times. You know, you're going to use the rest of your AP. Now, you don't need any conditions for these, in my opinion. This is basically, you just want Luminous Cover above Noble Guard, because you want his top priority before an ally's attack to block them. If Noble Guard's first, if they're trying to attack 2 targets, his top priority will be to guard himself, not to block for the ally. So you want this. And then inherently, then when they try to target only him, then he will guard himself as well. I like having both of these on. Maybe in some fights you want to turn this off to only guard allies. And if they're never going to attack allies, then you don't ever need to turn this off, really. So this is how I have my lane set up. And he's just kind of like the best tank in the game right now, it feels like maybe against super, like if you're going up against like level 16 cavalry, maybe you're gonna have an issue. You know, if I'm like level 10 and they're like level 16 and they're just way out leveling me, maybe I'll have an issue. But even then, like Cavalry Slayer is gonna do a pretty good job, unless there's like 3 cavalry. But even then, you know, maybe you could come up with team comps with a lane that'll keep them safe. You could have your mage freeze one. You could have Cavalry Slayer kill the other one's AP and their PP. And then you could maybe just like nuke down the third one with like a flyer or something, right? Like there's always ways around it, but overall, I think this is a pretty good setup for a lane. As far as teams, as always, I kind of have 2 teams set up here. This team is basically just cover your weaknesses. This one is not meant to like destroy cavalry, like I was saying. You could bring in a flyer instead of Bernice if you want to kill, or like if you have a 4th slot, I would probably bring in a flyer here. Just to increase the mobility of the team. But basically what this is, right? You're here, you're up front. You are going to guard or you're going to jump in front of allies. That's really what you do. You're very tanky, you heal yourself. And what's important is like with a character like Bernice, you want to be attacked. Every time an ally gets attacked, she will counterattack to deal damage, right? But this doesn't work if you dodge. So having a 42 evasion basically means you're almost guaranteed to get hit. It's just not high enough at this stage of the game for it to be a maybe they'll miss sometimes, which is not ideal. But for the most part, you're going to get hit, you're going to block, and then Bernice will jump in to deal a bunch of damage. Everything that they try to throw your way, if there's 4 of them, you know, they target 2 of them, try to target the front line, 2 of them try to target the back line. You could absolutely have it set up so you turn off Noble Guard, and then you're just going to sit there, you're going to take the hit, heal yourself back up, block for this, right? So like then Bernice is just going to go like a fucking blender and just chop them all up, which is why I have my big damage sword and big damage stuff on her. Instead of Brown Beret, she could probably have the Warrior's medallion. However, I only have the 1. I don't remember where I get the second one. But it does bring her attack up from 68 to 71, so that's pretty good. And then I have the Warrior here. This is mostly because I don't have a good way to kill armor, and the Warrior is pretty good at that. You could easily use a mage here. You could easily use a witch here. However, one of the reasons why I personally am a little biased towards the Warrior in this kind of team setup is the mage and the witch and, you know, the thief even, they're very weak to ranged assists. And Elaine doesn't help heal other people. He's not a selfish tank. He keeps everyone healed, but he keeps everyone alive, but he heals himself. So he's not able to help heal other people. Like maybe, and for a character like this, right? Even if you're only taking ranged assist, you just put a brooch on there, right? And now when you go to do your 1 attack a turn, you're suddenly your brooch is just gonna heal you up to full. So like you don't really need to worry about these characters as much, in my opinion, from range assists, because their HPs are just kind of high. Maybe the magic assists you got to be a little bit careful of. To be fair, this character is just kind of a low level. What's their magic defense? It's actually not bad. Not good, but not ridiculously bad. So you kind of got to be careful about that, which is one reason why I don't really like the witch as much with this specific build to deal with heavy armors, but it's something you could do. Now on this team here, let's replace Elaine here. Boom. This team is kind of like this. So this team is especially weak to ranged assists, but I like this team a lot as well. So I'm a big fan of the thief in general. They're great at dodging. They're great at targeting back row. They just do a lot of stuff. The witch also is really good at, she could freeze multiple targets a turn, or multiple targets in a combat, because she can basically use the ice conferral from the Frostbound Tome you can find behind her house, you know, in her house behind where you get her. And then when you attack with someone, it's going to add magic potency to their attack. And then it's also going to freeze the target, which is just good. So this, and then she'll actually use Ice Bolt, which will freeze a different target as long as you're prioritizing non-frozen. And then it will also, like, this is great at bypassing armor. Now, I think the thief is pretty good because they have a good chance of, like, they could bypass armor in a lot of ways too, you know, with their poison attacks. Like, they could do good damage to armor. They could also just attack the back row directly. If they're frozen, nothing's going to try to stop them. Passive steal could be good against lots of things. And then the main reason why Elaine works in this team is because the thief is This basically makes the thief unkillable. He kind of does the same thing, right? You don't need the noble guard in this case, but he's still got 2 PP in this situation, and he's got a bunch of tanky stuff. So if they target the thief, he's still going to jump in front of it. He's still going to jump in front of Yada. And sometimes you might want to move him like this and move a lane up front, but he's able to take his guard and jump in front of him, jump in front of her, and basically it's going to make this thief's PP go way, way, way further. So like even against, like if you're a team of 3 versus a team of 4, this is like really good at making sure you take 0 damage in this fight, because the thief is already really hard to hit, but this will make sure that like he doesn't eat up those evade counters very easily, especially against like archers, right? If there's like an archer with true strike, or an unwavering spear attack with true strike, you just jump in and you go, nope, yes, it hits, but this still makes it so the thief doesn't get hit. So this is really good at covering up the thief's weaknesses. And if I was to add a 4th character to this team, like I said, it would probably be something like probably a flyer, because it works with the witch hypothetically. But you know, I would just go for something that's really good at dealing a bunch of damage, like a Bernice, maybe a House Carl, something like that, you know, something that just does a bunch of damage. You could even do a Sharon and just add a extra couple ability points to your thief or to any other characters. But I'd basically just get something that's Cavalry. I'd probably just add Cavalry, because Cavalry is the strongest. The knight is the strongest thing in the game, pretty much. But yeah, so without further ado, guys, I hope you're enjoying your launch day of the game. I hope this video is going to help you build a lane. He's basically a tank, but he's a self-healing super tank, and he also just has great potential damage output. Like his damage output isn't going to outpace the top damage dealing classes, but at least at this stage, but he's still powerful. He's a very cool, fun, powerful, useful character. I like that he's a little bit agile, a little bit tanky, a little bit damage dealing, and he's honestly just good at all of that. And the self-healing is badass. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much. For Platypus is for Purplatypus. I will see you on the flip-flops. Bye.